today I got another ace. And the question was, how do I practice compassion? Because that's really what the opposite of that judgment card is practicing compassion for myself and for other people. And in my meditations and stuff, a lot of things are coming up because most of our behaviors are brought on by things that were programmed into us by the people that took care of us while we were children. So this was the Ace of Cups, and remember I told you that was anytime you get an ace in any suit, that is always a really good card. And so how do I practice being compassionate and non-judgmental towards myself and others? And this card is really pretty, I think, because it's showing you the mother and the baby in the womb, and really the mother is the baby and the baby is the mother, and self-care starts at nurturing the child. And sometimes you have to go backwards and nurture your own self and give yourself what you needed that you didn't get from the people that were supposed to give it to you, either because they didn't know how, they were unable, whatever it was. You know, there's lots of reasons for why. So part of the compassion that I have to have is to look at my parents and the shit that they were doing. The drugging, the drinking, the abuse to each other, to myself, to extended family members, whatever it was, and understand that these people came from a place of programming as well, and they're just human, and they did what they were programmed to do, and their parents did what they were programmed to do. And when you start to think about, especially in Mediterranean homes that are, you know, older Mediterranean homes that are steeped in misogyny and those kinds of things, the men rule kind of thing, and the first son is the most important, and you understand exponentially why certain things are the way they are. So my dad was the last born child, came 10 years after his oldest brother, 9 years after his sister. My mother was an only child, but had a cousin that lived with them that was like her little brother, and he was like 10 years younger. She lived in a really abusive home. She lived with my aunt and uncle and my grandmother, her mother, because my grandparents on my mom's side divorced really soon, like in the 30s or 40s, and then my grandfather on my mom's side moved on and my mom had a stepmother that I had 3 grandmothers for as long as I could remember. So when you look at all of that as a collective as to who these people were and the abuse that both of them took, you know, my dad didn't want to run the family grocery store. My dad wanted to play football. My dad wanted to be a stand-up comedian. My mom wanted to be a dancer and my mom was a real, like, adventurous kind of person for a Taurus, and Daddy was a Leo, the king, and there was just a lot of stuff that was squished in them because one was a girl, the other one was the youngest son. Everybody was telling them how they were going to live their lives. This is what you're going to do, and that contributed to their unhappiness and their self-medicating. And even though they probably, in a way, resented what was done to them, they sort of passed that shit along to me because that's all they knew. That was the way that you were supposed to do it. I have practiced giving my own inner child self-love. I find it really hard, and I don't know why that is. I think that's probably a good thing to write down. I find that really hard. I don't know if it's because I don't know how to do it, or I don't think I deserve it. I try to think that I was a little better than my parents were as far as trying not to pass a lot of the same bullshit down to Steven. But this card is telling you to really love yourself, to love who you were before you became the person you are, to And it's also still a reminder of the connectiveness of all people and the struggles that most of us have to endure, and sometimes that we're not even awake to. One of the things that came up in my meditations this morning when I thought about this card while I was reading about it, and as I'm taking notes, I'm actively letting my mind wander about what is this card really meaning to me. And I can remember almost like it happened yesterday, walking home from school. This makes me really sad. And I had given away my lunch money and didn't eat. And it had been like probably more than one time that I did that, or had to get food from a teacher, or whatever I did. Somehow, some way, my mother was made aware that I was giving away my lunch money. It wasn't a bully situation. Nobody was telling me they were going to beat me up and take my lunch money. It was an actual need of somebody in my class. I don't remember who. I don't remember what the circumstances are. I just know that I wasn't being bullied. That would have made an impression on me because I can remember lots of things like that. But this just really, it was almost like just who I was, a part of who I was, to just hear. Maybe I thought I'm not really hungry. Maybe I figured somebody would pick up the slack for me. I don't know. But I would give away my money for lunch all the time. And one day I came home from school, and my mother knew. I don't know if it was because they put a note in my bag or how they did it back then, but she knew. And she was very angry with me. And she told me that I was too nice. You're too nice, Michelle. And you just don't be giving stuff to those people because they're all liars and they're just taking advantage of you, and you don't understand how gullible you are, and you just don't do that. And I was like really offended and hurt that my mother would say, because if my kid had come home with that note in his backpack, I would have been like, who is this kid? And let me put money in his account. You know what I mean? So I don't quite understand why she had the reaction she did. Maybe it's because she felt like her entire life she was taken advantage of, and by God, that wasn't going to happen to her fucking kid. I don't know. She never expounded on it. We never talked about it in any kind of like deliberate manner or meaningful way. Whenever I would bring up shit from the past, my mom never wanted to go down that road. I think because my mother just didn't want to think about all the bullshit that she went through, or maybe put me through, or whatever it was. We just didn't talk about that stuff. It's really important you talk about that stuff. Because if you don't, eventually it comes in some form or fashion out of you. And it's usually not really pretty when those things come. And mine was really ugly. And it made me feel like I couldn't do anything. That I was not enough, that I wasn't smart, that I wasn't capable, that I didn't deserve. Whatever it was, all of those things manifested in me. And then I started looking for a hero. And I've been looking for one ever since. Until I realized the other day that I was my hero. That there is a big... It's really fucking amazing that I'm still here. I used to make jokes about that all the time to my family members when I would try to explain to them the stuff that I was going through or I had gone through in my house. But that I didn't... allow that to take me down a road of really serious substance abuse and maybe even suicide is really big. And so I am capable of saving myself, and I am smart, and I am self-sufficient, and I do deserve to be here because I am here. So I guess really this card is more for me than it is for me looking outward, because I have always been compassionate towards other people. Sometimes I have been mindless, and sometimes I have been careless in the way that I treated somebody. And I can honestly say in all of my life, I have never gone out of my way to hurt somebody on purpose. Ever. Ever. Even when I didn't like them. You know, I might have said some nasty things when we got into confrontations, but I never ever set out to hurt anybody intentionally. Ever. So, Anyway, today's the day for me to look inside of myself and practice being mindful of my own self-talk and really being connected to the cosmos and that inner child that needs some healing still. I mean, I don't think that there's going to be a moment where she doesn't need it, because she was lacking so much in that in her whole life. So, yeah. The subtitle of this card is Dissolving into Oneness. Oneness with the cosmos and from where we came, where the source of all love and compassion does reside. You know, I've been practicing paganism for 20 years almost. It'll be 20 years in 2021. And I don't know how, I mean, I'm not trying to diss anybody's fucking religious beliefs, because, you know, everybody has to get what they need from where they can get it. And, but I'm going to tell you that most of my time spent in Christianity was guilt and shame for the things I felt, for the things I wanted, for the way I wanted to live my life, for not being able to make my marriage work, for not being a much more submissive wife, for not honoring what my parents wanted, for not doing what my husband told me, for whatever it was. I felt so much guilt and shame. And to come into this religion and learn that the gods really don't have fucking time for that kind of bullshit, and the thing that they require of you when you make your presence known to them and say, hey, yep, I know you're there, is just for you to be better than you were yesterday. They're not asking for any atonement or sacrifice. Well, some do, but, you know, that's a different flavor. But in reality, even those ones don't require you to do that. No one's going to force you to give a sacrifice of an animal or whatever, or your time. I think the things that you want to sacrifice as you move forward in your religious practice comes from a place of actual devotion towards your gods, whoever they are. And I think that once you practice something or become a marginalized person, like if you just really understand what that means, you have more compassion towards other people and things. And I think this religion has taught me that. So yeah, that's today.